Welcome to The Payoff. I'm your host, Cynthia Nevels. We're going to get down and dirty today. I'm super excited about this episode because we're going to be giving you a little bit of truth. You know how I am. I'm always going to give you the tea about marketing and selling to large merchant retailers. But before we do that, I want to introduce my special guest today. I have the incomparable Melissa Bradley on the show with me today. Thank you for being with me here.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So, Melissa, let's get down to it. So,
Okay, let's go.
I did not discover you. I learned about you 4 years ago during the pandemic. And I was on a webinar where you were teaching an accounting class. It's my favorite subject. I'm a numbers nerd. I love numbers. And the way that you were delivering that training class, it was concise, it was clear, but yet you took complex information and you made it simple for the viewers who were on that call for them to understand. And I was so enamored and I thought, I love the way she teaches this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing to do, Melissa. How in the world did you learn how to take complex information and make it simple for others?
I think having 6 kids helps, of just understanding the need to not just be focused on giving information, but making sure it's received.
Yes.
And having kids with different learnings and et cetera, just realize that you have to figure out what's the middle of the road and hope that whatever you're teaching levels people up, but doesn't bore people. And I think numbers, most people are petrified of them, particularly in the context of business. They actually put more value on them than they actually have. They're just a numerical moment in time, reflective of decisions you have made. Not good, not bad. The beauty is they can change. And I think for me, having spent years as a professor and actually creating a course with a psychologist called The Psychology of Money, really began to understand that one of the issues, at least around finance, is it's all about a personal blockage, right? We've all had some bad experience, whether you're wealthy or not. You've had some bad experience of either not having enough money, in my case, watching my mom use food stamps and hoping none of my friends saw, to some of my ultra high net worth individuals saying, I'm tired of having to go to my dad and ask for money all the time. And so I think for me, it's just meeting people where they are and understanding that while it seems mundane, most people have some kind of emotional or psychological attachment to things when spoken about, and you have to respect those boundaries.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying here. And it also allows me to talk a little bit about the past and your journey, as you just mentioned, right? Where we come from. I've heard you tell your story 5 times. Once I had the opportunity to finally get a chance to meet you, and I joined your team working on the Women and Black Women program. Yes. And I thought that was so serendipitous. Because at that time when I saw you 4 years ago, I knew I had to meet you.
See, and that worked.
That worked. I just put it in the universe and it happened. But during your storytelling, you often will state that you had a job, you were entering into a space, you weren't quite sure what you were getting into or what you were going to do, but then you had this discovery from necessity, essentially, and which I found to be very relatable to a lot of us.
Yes,
as we're going on this path, this journey in our life, many of us not knowing, where am I going? What am I doing? What are my gifts?
Right.
And then there's this light bulb flicker and something happens. And that's what happened to you when you built your first technology product, right?
Yeah. I mean, I had a full-time job. I have no problem saying it. I worked for the Student Loan Marketing Association, or Sallie Mae. And I had booked $19 billion in loans and woke up one day and was like, there's got to be more than this. Recognizing that I was part of an affiliate and affinity channel. So I was selling them to fraternities and sororities and membership organizations, many of which were comprised of people like me. Well, I'm the first to say I would not have been able to go to undergrad or graduate school if it had not been for some kind of financial support. There was something missing for me, right? Having been a finance major, I understood, and a study or student of finance, even before I got to college, I understood what the trade-offs were and what the opportunity costs were of me signing a promissory note. But I realized most people didn't have that information. And so I was like, I can't just keep selling this product without making sure people understand exactly what they're buying. And so to your point, it started my first business, which deeply grateful for. Still know the people that were impacted by what we did, and feel like we made a mark in terms of helping people understand and really owning their own financial journey.
I think that is critically important as well. And it leads me to now venture into asking the question about the future.
Yeah.
No one can determine what the future holds for any of us.
That's right.
But we do have to be present in current times. And I was thinking as I got prepared for this conversation with you, you got to get your mind right before you talk. Yes, okay. I was going to say the real word, but I changed my mind. But I knew that I had to have my mind right. And I was just taking a look at, I hadn't left my house in 7 days. I work from home, from the home office. I hadn't left my house in 7 days, and I'm very cool with that. I'm very okay with
You ain't missing nothing. You ain't missing nothing. Nothing.
Out there. And I was thinking to myself, I have my food delivered to me. I bought my car online without ever touching it. I bought a whole house of new furniture without ever sitting on it. A couple of months ago, you can buy land online and never visit.
Yeah.
I could have my laundry picked up and washed for me and brought back, and I never have to touch it. There's so many things that you can do,
Yeah,
and never leave your home.
Yeah.
Which leads me to this thought that I have of these small business owners who are creating the next hair care line, the next skincare line, the next beauty product in their garage, bathroom, kitchen, dying to
Yep.
get on a dusty shelf that I will never walk into,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
You ain't missing nothing. You ain't missing nothing. Nothing.
Except every time I walk out the house, I spend $100 and I have no idea where it went, right?
There you go. There you go.
But there's this sense of validation that
Yeah.
these new entrepreneurs feel that if I build it, one, they will come, but two, if I put it on the big shelf in the big retailers, it's automatically going to make me a millionaire. And I just had a conversation where I was like, girl, no. What are your thoughts on that?
So let me take a step back for a minute, right? I think, particularly because I care about our community, my community, I think there's a couple things I want to level set. One is that I think we have been sold a bill of goods that entrepreneurship is an automatic pathway to wealth. It is a pathway, but it requires a high level of effort, understanding, and skill. Research that I've done at HC3 and a professor at Georgetown says that while 50% of all businesses fail in the United States, Black businesses last a minimum of 8.5 years. And we saw that when everybody's like, oh, everybody's failing. I'm like, our businesses aren't failing. However, that longevity does not correlate to increased revenue or access to capital.
That's right.
Which means people are emptying out their RRAs, they're borrowing against their home, which is really unfortunate because you've now had a job, saved all this money, and then you're putting it into a business, which is your right. But then really understanding what does that mean and what is the opportunity cost? Because as we know, despite you live long enough as a Black business, it doesn't guarantee success. And so I think the first thing is really making sure people understand what does it mean to start a business. And for some reason, success has been correlated with the more you can see me, whether that's on social media or on a shelf. And the reality is success in a business is about margin and profit, period. It is a numbers game. And what we're finding is we have a partnership with Target and Whole Foods and Ulta, where many of our businesses have been featured online or in store. And was very quickly, we put together some calculators for our founders to really think about, can I afford to be there? Because really what happens is you end up giving money to Target, right? You're responsible for shipping. You're responsible for stocking. You're responsible for returns. and you're responsible for marketing.
Yes.
They're just leasing you shelf space, and you have to pay all that up front. And then you get the dribs and drabs as it comes in, which means you probably need to make sure that you have enough money to operate your entire business for at least 3 to 6 months. And that's lucky if you're net 60 or net 90.
Mhm.
And I think that people just get so excited and they say, oh, I can afford to get on the shelf, but they don't understand the cost of being on the shelf.
That's right.
We had a sister a few years ago, had the opportunity to be in every single Sam's. All she had to do was sell 6 bottles of what she was selling in 5 stores in a relatively local geographic region.
Mhm.
She didn't make it.
Mhm.
Because when you think about the store, it's not just the cost, but then is it the right customer fit? Her products were $2 to $3 more. Nobody goes to Sam's Club for premium products. And because she was a solopreneur, she didn't have the opportunity to be in 6 stores at one time to do the marketing and the free samples. And so the opportunity went away. But she said it was the best thing that ever happened to me because I would not have been able to afford to subsidize being in the Sam's Club all across the country. So I think that people should look at big box stores or retailers as but one of many distribution channels and really understand what are the costs. Most successful people who go into these big box stores or retail outlets have sold online, and they're just driving their customers to the store at another entry point, right? They have reduced the friction to get the product to somebody like you. And if you happen to be outside, oh, how convenient. I need it today as opposed to the 2-day delivery. Let me go get it there. But I think people are just so excited about being present that they don't understand being present does not mean you're going to become profitable.
I agree with that. I had a scholar I was talking to about this very subject, whereas she has a product that she makes. She owns a spa as well, and she has an e-commerce presence,
Right.
but minimal units are being sold through either of the channels. But she was dead set on if I could just omit what I have in place right now and get on into a larger store, it would be better.
Yeah.
And I was working to explain to her, you should actually be looking at what you have in your hands right now, maximizing the resources, driving the traffic through what you own, building your rapport with your customers and understanding. And it was almost as if I had told her something magical. She
You
did.
did. It was magical to her because she had never thought about it.
You never thought about it. And that's the thing, like business owners who are venturing into these product-based or consumer good product-based spaces, and they really haven't thought about
That's right.
what they're building.
That's right.
And so some of the things that you talked about were really critical and important. So let's just talk about what would be the first steps that they should be thinking about before they venture into a consumer good product company.
Yeah, so I think one is understanding your numbers. I'm always going to start there. Understanding what you can afford because you're essentially saying I'm about to increase my production. And so what can you afford on your own while still paying all your other bills so that you understand what is your capacity. I think the second thing is then understanding where is your product market fit, which means really knowing who your customer is. Are they a Target customer? Are they an Amazon customer? Are they a Whole Foods? Are they an Ulta? But just understanding their shopping habits so that you're actually in the right retail location that they should be. I think you want to have a robust e-commerce business first so that you have figured out how people buy, what size do they buy, what's the favorite one of a series they buy, understanding your shipping costs, all of those kinds of things so that you have a sense of, okay, when I do have a retail operation opportunity, I know exactly who's going into that store. I know exactly how much I'm going to spend. And therefore, if I have 5 SKUs, I'm not going to sell 5 SKUs. I know I'm going to sell 3 SKUs. And so you really dictate how you're going to leverage retail as just yet another distribution channel. And then a third thing is be really clear about what is it going to take to market. Start small. Most places will give you 5, 10, maybe 20 stores.
Mhm.
Know that you're probably not going to make money, but use as an opportunity to figure out what is the marketing, what is the placement, what is the traffic, how many turns, how many products are turning every single week. And then you can decide, A, do I continue because I now see a path to profitability? And maybe that's 100 stores, 200 stores, 300 stores, and I've worked out the kinks of my production to do that. Or you say, you know what, this wasn't worth it. But what it did teach me is this marketing works and people want to be able to have access here. And you may think of consignment in a different store where you don't have to subsidize it. You may think of increasing your own e-commerce platform, right? If you find that the margins aren't working for Amazon. But I think you've got to really think about all aspects of the business are going to be impacted by this massive push to a bunch of consumers who are going to see your product respectfully amongst maybe 20 or 30 others.
That's so true. And so you mentioned something about pushing more traffic to your e-commerce site. Utilizing those tools can be quite helpful.
Absolutely.
And one of the behemoths in this space is Shopify.
Yep.
And creating a platform for more of us in actuality
Correct.
to take advantage and optimize the opportunity to do that. But I'm not quite sure if I don't know if we're adopting it the way that we should or could.
We could do it a whole lot more because let's be clear. One of the unique things that you've brought up is that when you sell your product in those stores, excuse me, you get no customer information. You just know how many units left, which makes it really hard to be able to retain those customers. The beauty about e-commerce is you get all the information you need. You can push direct mail. And let's be honest, it is a whole lot cheaper to get the same customer to keep coming back than to get new customers. And so I do think that people are, for some reason, I say stuck on stupid. I'm just like, I've got to be everywhere, when indeed that's not how business is successful. You need to be exactly where your customers are. And if your customer is someone who is like me, hates going shopping, doesn't want to be in store in 15 minutes, don't have me go to a Target or a Whole Foods or an Ulta where I'm overwhelmed. Give me the option to buy it online. And think about, do I then go to Amazon if I'm the kind of person who's ordering last minute so I can go pick it up in the box and I'm willing to pay for that? So I think that's really the trade-off, but you've got to have access to that information. So I think Shopify or other platforms where you actually get to know your customer, that's the best way to go. You don't want to sell anything blind.
No, absolutely not. Another area that folks are I think, not optimizing, but there's this group that are, and that is Amazon.
Yep.
And when I look at, I'm a numbers person, and when I look at the opportunities and the potential of Amazon, there are some people who are making millions and millions and millions selling socks on Amazon.
Absolutely. You could buy almost anything on there. But it's interesting because I think, one, again, people get stuck on the wrong things, right? They get stuck on these big brands and therefore they can help me. But yet they think Amazon's going to hurt them. And let's be clear, sure, there's duplication, et cetera. But again, Amazon is a platform, right? It is a means for you to get to your customer. You've got to really understand what it is, a tool. It is not a store. It is a tool. And again, you get the data, you get the information. Sure, you may run into competition, but what a great way to try a campaign to see if it works. What a great way to test a new product, because you have the whole world looking if you've set up your search terms right. And so I think, again, it's not bottom line is nobody should have just one thing, one tool, but really figuring out what are the right tools that both generate revenue, but also generate data so that I can keep selling.
Data is so important.
It is, but people don't like to look at it.
Oh my gosh. When when I'm talking to people and I'm asking them about business intelligence, I'm asking about their numbers and what has historically has your data told you, so you can make future decisions. I don't know.
That's right.
And it hurts me to my heart to know, for the most part, it's us.
That's right.
That aren't looking at the numbers that are sitting right there. And I'm not, no shade. It's just, you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
And we're telling you, your riches are in the data.
That's right. That's right. You can save a lot of money and you can make a lot of money by just looking at what's working, what's not working. And I will say, I think particularly for my community, our community, data has been something that has been used to judge us.
Yeah.
And part of what I'm trying to help people do by doing research and doing these different seminars is how to use data to actually benefit us. We know that too often all the negative statistics that come out about us have not been useful, but I think we have to own our own data so that we own the narrative. We have to own our own data so that we're actually running our own business and not running away from things or running towards things that just don't work for us or for our business model. So I could not completely agree more with you.
You just dropped a gem there. Own your own data and then use it to make decisions to make more money in the future.
Yes.
I love that. And so,
attention small business owners. Is your website outdated? Or is your marketing falling short, costing you valuable customers? At Mad Mind Studios, we specialize in creating custom websites and marketing strategies that drive results. Right now, we're offering a free consultation and marketing audit to help you get on track. Don't miss out on this opportunity to elevate your business. Visit madmindstudios.com or call us today at 310-402-1613 to schedule your free consultation. Mad Mind Studios, where your growth is our business.
Love that. And so I'm going to talk about two things here. I'm going to touch on something you just mentioned, but and no judgment on me. Don't judge me, Melissa.
Never, never.
I invested into a salsa company that was in Whole Foods and Central Market, and it was the best damn salsa in the world, in my personal opinion. And first she started out as a client, and I was giving advice and fix this, fix this, fix this. And then I wanted to invest in the concept and the idea. I saw the opportunity for growth.
Yep.
But, oh Lord, when I got in, I saw that she didn't know what she was doing. Like
Right.
I tell you all day.
Yep.
But you weren't the right person to
That's
lead
right.
this business to take advantage of the opportunities. And I didn't want to run your company.
Right.
Right. And so I lost money on that deal. That was a lesson learned. It's cool. Whatever. I learned a lot, right? You kick my butt right now, but
Now you know, but you learn from it.
now I learned. Now I know.
Right.
But the point is that you have a lot of great innovation. You have
Absolutely.
great ideas. You have a lot of folks building really solid brands, but sometimes they're not the right people to take them into this 1 billion, 5 million, $10 million land, right?
That's right. I think people don't understand all the roles associated, right, in this kind of entrepreneur. There's the innovator,
Yeah.
right? There's the advertiser, there's the operator, and then there's the entrepreneur. And all those roles are relevant and required. But I think you're right. I think people sometimes assume that it's only going to work if they lead the way. And what happened, my sense is, I'm sure it's still an amazing salsa.
Yeah.
But when the time was diverted to other things that probably did not bring her great joy, things changed. And so, you know, you and I have had these conversations around the importance of processes and writing things down. But I think that we have to move away from that. You can only be a successful founder or CEO if you're in the front, right? You can be a successful entrepreneur and decide that somebody else should be doing your marketing or somebody else should be running the business, and you really focus on what you're good at. And I think that to me is really the difference between a successful business and a surviving business, because you are able to identify, you know, nobody wants to do what they don't enjoy. And so, you know, I know, like, I'm a finance person, but please don't have me do accounting. I really want to know what's going forward. So let me fill that role. And so I do think that people have to figure out if they're really going to be growing a business, putting themselves in the right seat. And that doesn't always have to have a C in front of it. You can still be the primary majority owner. You can still get most of the proceeds, but be smart around where you excel and making sure there's a job description that allows you to excel and not be drained by some of the more mundane tasks of running a business.
Thank you. Drop the mic. I hope the 5 listeners heard that.
And they'll pass it on. Don't worry about it. They'll pass it on. They'll pass it on.
And so my last question, which is really, really, I think really important, because I'm seeing a lot of challenges with our businesses, and that is production, logistics, supply chain.
Yep.
These things are killing us.
That's right.
And the entrepreneurs who aren't not well versed in how to navigate this space are finding it very difficult to get over it and maintain their low costs because they don't know what they're doing in this space. There's a lack of African American owned manufacturing companies, logistical companies, and transportation companies. There's a shortage, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And what are your thoughts on how this is impacting their ability to be able to sell online or sell in retail stores and so forth?
You know, I think you hit a really important point, right? We are great at being creatives and innovators and founders, but we don't own the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so we are then forced to pay a price that may or may not work for us. And that's where you begin to see people spending more money than they're actually generating. I do want to honor and respect that those are very high capital intensive businesses. But I do think that there are some movement amongst our community of people saying, how do we think about cooperatives, whereby maybe they don't start one, but let's be honest, if you go to a co-packer, right, the co-packer cares about who gets the most work, right? You got 5 units, you must got 500. Your 5 may happen a week from now. And so I have seen founders banding together around like-minded products and saying, let's form a contractual relationship together so that they get their quantity needs so that we are a higher ranking customer. And then hopefully, to your point, people will find a pathway into supply, logistics, and production. But I do think the challenge, of course, is that what people don't know is they're often owned by major Fortune 500 companies that are already traded on the stock market. And so it is a hard industry to get into. I know that there are some up and coming, I'd say short to mid-range distribution companies, trucks, and those kinds of things. I think entering the ports and the seas is very complicated, licensing, et cetera. So I do see it emerging, but I think you make a good point. And so therefore, if we can't run the system, then we have to figure out how do we game or leverage the system so that we understand what are the levers to pull that will drive and align with our business needs and not put us at the bottom of somebody's waiting list.
That's the truth. And so another question that I have for you is, would you recommend our small businesses go the route of retail merchant sales, like where we are today, knowing that I'm never going to come outside and I'm going to buy online?
Right. I mean, I think if it makes business sense, right? I think there's no set answer for everybody. Founder is different, right? I mean, B from Honey Pot is a very good friend of mine, and she created the business while she was actually working at Whole Foods. And so she was very clear the person she was looking for was a Whole Foods customer, but she understood she didn't need to be in every single Whole Foods. She is now, but she didn't need to be to start with, right? And she clearly understood what were the breakpoints required that she was going to still make money and still be able to keep going. And so I think the biggest thing is, who is your customer? And I just want to take a moment to say, your customer is not a 17 to 35-year-old woman who makes $100,000 a year. You have to really develop, as you know, we talk about customer persona. They have to come to life. Who are they? What's their name? Where do they shop? How much time do they spend on social media? Who are their influencers? Because saying I'm going to sell to a 17 and 35 female with $100,000, that's like shooting an arrow into a landmine. But you have to figure out, is retail for me because that's where my customers are, and understanding what the costs are, right? But again, I think not as an ends, but a means to that you have successfully done something online. This is an opportunity to grow, but you are going to drive, not saying, oh, I'll give you these 20 stores in the Midwest here on the East Coast. These are the 20 stores I want because that's where I know my customer is. So I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to say, do your homework, run the numbers, and make sure that you can afford taking on this new distribution channel.
Good advice. So Melissa, you're traveling the country.
Yeah.
And
I'm actually leaving the country in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited.
Are you? I'm not going to ask you where you're going. I don't want anybody to try to stalk you or anything. Where are you going? No.
Going to my favorite city, Amsterdam. Favorite city. Very excited. Very excited.
Safe travels. But you're traveling the U.S. and just like when I discovered you during the pandemic, and became aware of who you are in our country and how important you are in our country. And yes, I mean that. And how important it is for us to see you. You're traveling to expose or provide exposure to more people under this new majority initiative that you have going on, which is very important work. Talk to me about what you're doing across the U.S.
Yeah, we'll be 10 years old next year at 1863. And we started, nobody was talking about helping Black founders. And I'm happy to say now they are. And so for me, it is, then what's next? What is needed in the marketplace? We have enough people now who are doing incubation, acceleration. What's next? And I think what's next for me is, how do I make sure that the right people, that there's a robust top of funnel people who can afford to be an entrepreneur, and how do we then build up the ecosystem that I think now is really needs to be local as opposed to people traveling back and forth. And so the premise for the New Majority Summits is how do we convene people together, give them a crash MBA course in a day, give them real life examples, and first and foremost, give them tools to grow their business, but more importantly, give them permission to stop doing the business if it's not working for them, and then connect them to local ecosystem builders that we have provided training and curriculum to, so that they have a home base to get content, to get access to tools, to get access to community. And so we really just want to elevate the ecosystem that has evolved over the past almost 10 years and really just reinforce that there is a cultural competency required to help Black founders. All entrepreneurship programs are not for everybody. And just like it's about product market fit. And we just want to make sure that for those who want to pursue their pathway from founder to CEO, they can get the right product and support so they can be successful.
I love to hear it. I wish you so much luck in your travels and your tour. I appreciate you so much and grateful
Appreciate
for
you.
what you do for us.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.